Hello, kindergartners. I am coming to you today to read you a story. I know that earlier in the school year we read a story about bear and mouse, and visitors were not allowed. And this is a sequel to that story. We see our friends bear and mouse again, and they're always up to something. So let's see if they can stay friends, and let's see if they can get along. This is called A Bedtime for Bear, written by Bonnie Becker. Once again, this is being read with permission from Candlewick Press. A Bedtime for Bear. Oh, everything had to be just so for Bear's bedtime. His glass of water had to sit on the exact right spot on his bedstand. His favorite pillow must be nicely fluffed. His nightcap needed to be snug. Most of all, it had to be quiet. Very, very quiet. The sign on his door says, "Do not disturb." One evening, Bear heard a tap, tap, tapping on his front door. Sound familiar? When he opened the door, there stood Mouse, small and gray and bright-eyed. He clasped a tiny suitcase in his little paw. "I am here to stay the night," exclaimed Mouse with a happy wiggle of his whiskers. "Surely we agreed on next Tuesday," protested Bear. "Oh, no, no, no," said Mouse. "You most definitely said tonight." "Oh," said Bear. Bear had never had an overnight guest before. Guests could quite possibly mess things up and make a noise. And Bear needed quiet, absolute quiet at bedtime. Oh, even so, Bear and Mouse enjoyed an evening of checkers and warm cocoa, and soon it was time for bed. "Remember, I must have absolute quiet," reminded Bear. "Oh, indeed," said Mouse. Bear set out his glass of water. He adjusted his nightcap. He fluffed his favorite pillow and climbed into bed. It was very, very quiet. He closed his eyes. Bear heard a noise. It was Mouse brushing his teeth. Bear cleared his throat in a reminding sort of way. "Oh, sorry," said Mouse. Bear closed his eyes again. Hum, pum, 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 pum. Mouse hummed while he put on his nightshirt. Pum, 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 pum. "Absolutely quiet," muttered Bear most patiently. "Deepest apologies," said Mouse. Went Mouse's Bear as he hopped in. Bear jammed his pillow over his ears, gritted his teeth, and closed his eyes. He was just about to drift off when... "Good night, Bear," Mouse called softly. Bear tried to pretend he was asleep. "Good night," Mouse called a little louder. My ears are highly sensitive, cried Bear. Oh, really? How interesting. Can you hear this? Mouse mumbled into his pillow. Yes! Oh, amazing! How about this? Mouse said from under his pillow. How about this? Quiet! Mouse slipped under his blankets, crawled to the bottom of his bed, and he whispered, Can you hear this? Silence! Bear roared. Mouse slid from his bed, went into the closet, and said, in the tiniest possible voice, into the farthest, darkest, teeniest possible corner of the closet, Surely you can't hear this. Will this torment never cease? Wailed Bear. Oh, sorry, Bear. Good night, Bear, whispered Mouse, tiptoeing back into his bed as quiet as a, well, you know. Bear fluffed his favorite pillow, adjusted his nightcap, and he waited. But there was no more sound from Mouse. At last it was quiet. Very, very quiet. Bear heard a shuffling sound. Mouse? Is that you? There was no answer. Bear heard a crick, crick, crick on the floorboards. I know it's you. No answer. You can't fool me, Bear growled, but he didn't sound very certain. Bear heard a low, moaning noise. Mouse? And there was silence. Oh, that sounds frightening. Bear was sure something rustled on the floor. Mouse, he cried, wake up! Mouse stumbled out of bed, small and gray and sleepy-eyed. What is it? But Bear couldn't see any rustly, moany sort of thing in his room. His room looked quite like it always looked. Oh, nothing, Bear lied, still clutching his blanket to his chin. I must have been talking in my sleep. Bear chuckled. Oh, but it was rather quavery. Ah, said Mouse, with a glance at Bear. Could I peek under your bed? Asked Mouse. Sometimes I like to check for things, you know. Well, if you insist, said Bear. Oh, nothing, said Bear from under the bed. You'll want to check behind the curtains, I suppose, Bear said. Oh, yes, all clear, declared Mouse a moment later. You'd better check in the closet, Bear offered. Then you won't be the least bit nervous. Mouse came out of the closet, dusting off his paws. Not a thing. Thank you, Bear. Good night. Wait! Cried Bear. You'll want a bedtime story, I suspect, said Bear. You know, for your nerves. For my nerves? Said Mouse. Indeed, I'm quite shaken. Then, with an eager flick of his tail, he settled on Bear's favorite pillow. And Bear told him all about the adventures of the brave, strong bear and the very frightened little mouse. Soon Bear began to yawn. Mouse yawned too. "Good night, Bear," said Mouse. "Good night, Mouse," Bear mumbled. Just then Bear began to snore loudly, but Mouse just smiled. And soon Mouse and Bear were fast asleep. And that is the story of A Bedtime for Bear. Kindergartners, in this story, Bear was pretty worried. And we talked about worries before we left for our distancing at home. And once again, we talked about it and we also read a story. And the one thing that helped make worries go away was talking about it. And I think Bear did a good deal of talking to Mouse. I think he solved his problem by sharing what he was worried about. So just remember, if you're feeling a little bit worried, you can always talk to your family. You can always let them know what's on your mind. They'd be happy to listen. I hope you have a great afternoon, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.